Welcome back, everybody, to the Sooner or Later podcast. This week we're going to do roster breakdown. Everybody that checked in and watched the video last week, we appreciate it. Let's jump right in right away. Kick it off with offense, Chad.
All right, let's start with offense here. Obviously, quarterback is set in stone with Kirk Cousins. Regardless of what people think about him, he's our starting quarterback, plain and simple. Running back, pretty easy, Dalvin Cook and Alexander Madison. Receiver, this is where it gets fun. There is a lot of new faces in this group, and Mitchell, you chime in whenever you feel like it. Obviously, Adam Thielen is going to be the number one go-to guy day one. I would assume Justin Jefferson is.
I think Thielen's going to play in the slot pretty decent amount this year, honestly. He has in the past, but I think he might more this year with BC and Tajay.
Yeah, and obviously Justin Jefferson did a lot of slot stuff at LSU last year. I know a lot of people have that problem with Justin Jefferson. They think he's solely a slot receiver, which is 100% false.
Last year is literally the only year in his life he's played slot receiver.
If you go back to it would be his sophomore tape, all he was an outside threat with LSU. So I don't see a problem with him contributing all over the field, not just in the slot.
I think that's interesting, though. We have a lot of...
I think there's a lot
receivers,
of versatility.
Yeah, that can really play
all over the field,
wherever on the field. And then, you also got two really versatile tight ends that can also do whatever. Irv Smith can do what a receiver can do.
Yeah, that's the interesting part about the Vikings offense, I think. Now this is just me, and I love Adam Thielen. I don't think the Vikings have a true number one right this second. Adam Thielen is in that conversation, but I do think his production is going to go down without Stephon Diggs.
Right. We'll have to see
until Justin Jefferson gets into a rhythm, because let's call it what it is. They played really well off each other. It's plain and simple. So I love Adam Thielen. I just don't know if he's a true number one yet. Well, we're going to find out. But I do think the Vikings have a lot of good receivers. This was obviously a big concern of mine after we traded Stephon Diggs, because all of a sudden I looked at the roster and there was nobody there.
Yeah, second man up was
Olabisi,
and then we signed Tajay.
Yeah. So now you're looking at guys, obviously Justin Jefferson, BB like you said. Actually, a guy I really like is Alexander Hollins. He played sparingly at the end of the year. I like what he brings to the table. We'll see if he has a bigger role this fall. KJ Osborne out of Miami.
I like him.
Does a few different things. Wasn't overly productive in college. Probably he'll compete for the kick return job for sure. And then I think everybody's number one watch at training camp is Courtney Davis from Texas A&M, who was the big undrafted free agent signing.
Yeah, that was... Before we started the episode, that was the guy that I had mentioned before we started as kind of a sneaky guy to make the roster, whether it's kick return or if he does beat out a couple guys at receiver. Really, honestly, I think we're going to have a pretty competitive wide receiver.
There's a lot of young talent there.
There's going to be a lot of competitions going on for wide receiver spots this year. We know from years past, obviously, you get 55 this year on the roster, but, in years past, we've kept that wide receiver core pretty thin.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. So who's on the roster, do you think?
Thielen and Jefferson. I don't think Tajay is for sure to make it, but you do.
I think he's on the roster. So let's say 3. 4 and
Olabisi is for sure.
On it. KJ Osborne's on it because of what he can do special teams-wise. So that leaves Chad Beebe, Dylan Mitchell, Alexander Hollins, Devon Davis, Courtney Davis, and this guy I've never heard of, to be honest.
Yeah, he probably came from
So,
Last Chance
what do you
U or
think?
something.
What are you thinking? 6?
Yeah, usually we keep 5 in the last 2 years, I believe.
Yep. Last year, I think we only kept 4, actually.
To start, and then we brought in Doxson, which didn't work, and then we brought
back
Laquan back.
Let's, that's a very
So,
interesting
Jefferson,
spot.
Thielen, Olabisi, Taj, KJ, and my 6 would probably be Courtney Davis.
Yeah. I think, personally, I think it's between BB, Davis, and Alexander. And one of them probably gets to the practice squad at some point.
But
I don't know. I don't see the Chad BB love, I guess. That's just me, but
yeah, that's what I was going to say. What does BB really give you that
these other guys don't. I mean, at least Davis has size. Holland's got some size. Not a lot of big guys out there. Jefferson. That's just an interesting group to watch to see what 5 they keep.
6 or 6?
5 or 6, whatever they decide to do. Offensive line. I think this is
Also interesting.
Everybody's biggest question is who's going to play right guard. Right now, according to Orleans.com, they have Dakota Dozier at right guard. I don't think that's happening.
No, I got Drew Smia over him.
It comes down to what do the Vikings do at left tackle? Is Ezra Cleveland, do they think he's ready to contribute day one? A lot like Brian O'Neill was forced into do a couple years ago. Do they think... What do they think of Pat Elflein? Does Pat Elflein get bigger? He's never been the same player since he tore his tricep his rookie year. He was off to a great start his rookie campaign and tore that tricep and never was the same. And we all know they're really
Didn't he have a lower leg injury as well?
Yeah. I think he's been banged up a lot. And
I thought it was his Achilles.
And we all know they're really high on Drew Samia, who would just bring a nasty type player to that offensive line, which I think
gritty,
we need.
Yeah.
We don't have anybody that's just tough and is going to go straight
Yeah,
through.
we don't really have... I mean, you look at our offensive line, we don't really have a guy that's like, yeah, I want to beat your ass, dude.
Mm-hmm.
We're more, obviously with the zone scheme, we're more athletic than size and grittiness and, I'm going to pound you into the ground. So I think it's kind of a hard... It's a hard thing to do as to be athletic and try to move and try to get outside with Dalvin and be gritty. I mean, I feel like a lot of the grittier guys are the bigger guys that it's just I think Drew starts at right guard at this point for me.
I think so too, just because I think unless something happens in the free agent market where they go after Larry Wolford, who just got cut by the Saints, which I don't see just because obviously we don't have much cap space, so we don't have a lot of money to do those things. You would have to trade Riley Reif or cut Riley Reif and do all these things, which is entirely possible. Just doesn't really make sense to do right now, this late in the process. Although, who knows what the offseason looks like from here on out with everything going on. I got Riley Reif at left tackle, though, still. Just because I think they want a veteran guy there. Because really, after him, there's not much there. Brian O'Neill. Would he be our next best guy, veteran-wise? I think they'll want to keep him there just because he's solid. He's not great, but he's good. And he can do a lot of good things for you. I don't know if it's worth it moving him to guard this late in his career. I don't know what you think about that.
How about you? You give me your starting offensive line day one, and I'll give you mine. Obviously, figuring in, no injuries to start the year and everything going
I would go
as planned.
Riley Reif, Pat Elflein, Garrett Bradbury.
So left tackle, left guard, center.
Garrett Bradbury, Drew Samia.
Right guard.
And then Brian O'Neill.
Right tackle. I'm a little bit different. I do think we end up finally pulling the trigger on moving Reef. We've talked about it in the past. He, I believe, played guard in college and high school.
Yeah, a little bit. I think he played, and then he went to left tackle his senior year, I think.
So I don't think it'd be a tough switch for him.
Been a long time.
But
13 years.
I mean, regardless, you move Reef to left guard.
For Elfline, you're saying?
Right, but even then, you could Elfline and Drew or Dakota Dozier. I mean, you have a three-way competition right there. Best player.
Yeah, personally, what I like about our offensive line is
we have options.
There's options
now.
there. I like Rashad Hill. I know he's not great, but he's a good depth piece. Can play both tackle spots. Pat Elfline can move around, play center, play guards. Collins, the Vikings have always been really high on him.
Avion, yeah.
But obviously that's not working or not progressing the way they wanted to. Oh, Brett Jones, too.
Yeah.
Who they traded a pick for. Again, it's not the strongest part of the Vikings offense and depth-wise, but I think there's a lot of options there.
My starting line right now, I think Ezra's going to start day one just because what he brings athletically, what he brings getting out in space. I mean, he's might have been the most athletic offensive lineman in the draft. I mean, he's not a big guy, though. He will probably get pushed around facing some power rushers.
Yeah, he'll get that early.
But I think as far as the zone run scheme, the screens, and the dump offs we like to run with Dalvin, I think he's honest. I think he's better at left tackle right now than, Reef. But I say that because I think we have a greater need at guard, and I think Reef, and I think Reef would be a step up from Elfline. I mean, he's getting older. You don't have to be as quick off the ball at guard as you do tackle.
Yeah.
So my starting offensive line is Cleveland, day one at left tackle, moving Reef to left guard, Bradbury center. I think Drew Samia wins the job at right guard. Wouldn't be surprised if it was Elfline. And then right tackle, Brian O'Neill.
Which is, Brian O'Neill is our best lineman, according to me. All right, well, that's interesting. I like it. I don't hate it.
I just think that really Ezra kind of just happened to be a blessing in disguise kind of thing.
So you got
us.
Cleveland, Reef, Bradbury, Samia, O'Neill.
Yep.
And I got Reef, Elfline, Bradbury, Samia, O'Neill.
Yeah.
All right, that'll be interesting to watch this fall. Let's go to tight ends.
Pretty self-explanatory there, though. Rudolph, Irv Smith. Doubt Rudolph gets traded at this point.
Yeah, nothing's happening there.
I mean, it's going to be them two, but honestly, the way our receivers behind Justin Jefferson and Thielen look, we could see Irv definitely lined up, standing up a little bit more this year as well.
And just more involvement, right? Just more involvement in
the
offense.
People don't realize that he's a tight end that ran I believe it was in the 4.4s.
Yeah, this guy can be a stud in this league so fast. He's my breakout player on offense this year, Irv Smith Jr. I think he's going to have a massive year for the Vikings. And I'll make a bold prediction. He catches more touchdowns than Kyle Rudolph.
Okay, that is definitely bold.
Kyle Rudolph is the red zone threat. But I think Irv Smith is more productive and catches more touchdowns this year.
The play that really did it for me last year for Irv was when he got absolutely annihilated across the middle. Who was that against? It was right around the 25-yard line. God, he just got smashed across the middle and held onto the ball. It might have been.
Denver? Do we play Denver? No.
I think it was actually Denver on the comeback. I don't remember. Regardless, I can't remember who it was against for sure. But that was a play that I was like, damn, this dude's got it. I mean, he just got leveled across the middle, hung on. But other than that, I mean, that's pretty much it for the offense.
Tyler Conklin, obviously. CJ Ham.
CJ Ham's obviously starting fullback.
Strongest position for you on offense?
Tight end.
Tight end?
I mean, how can you go wrong with them two? I mean, even if you rotate, I mean, we don't rotate them, but even if you rotate them two guys, you're not going to be lacking a playmaker at tight end.
Yeah, I'm going to say running back. I mean, I think that's easy, but you took tight ends.
Right.
So I'm going to take running back. I like the depth there. Dalvin, Madison, Boone, Amir Abdullah, who's back and can just give you some snaps. I think the Vikings are really deep there and at tight end.
Really what the draft did for us this year was really made us – there's going to be a lot of competitions at camp, and there's going to be a lot of guys. There's going to be a lot of guys that are going to have to battle for starting spots. You're going to have to perform to keep your starting spot. I don't think Zimmer would be afraid to make a change if he sees somebody outperforming you, outworking you in practice.
Here's one question I have for you.
Okay.
How close is Nate Stanley to Sean Mannion for the backup job?
I don't think very close, just because our playbook really probably isn't going to change a lot with Kubiak, and so obviously Mannion already knows it, and especially with the short off season coming up. Well, most likely, I should say, a short off season.
Yeah.
I would just say, honestly, because of that, would keep Mannion safe.
Yeah. Weakest spot? If you take what I think you're going to take, I'm going to take something else.
I'll go wide out, just because outside of the top two, really you don't know who that third. You don't know who them third or fourth guys are. I mean, you don't even outside of the top two. I wouldn't be surprised if any of them other guys didn't make the roster behind them. Honestly, for me.
Yeah. I'm gonna shock some people here, and I'm gonna say quarterback. It's not because of Kirk Cousins. It is because what happens when Kirk goes down? It's over. I mean, let's just call it what it is.
We're going for Trevor Lawrence or...
This is not a situation where when...
Rashad Bateman.
Rashad? Hit me up, baby. It's not a situation where when Sam Bradford or Teddy Bridgewater got hurt, I felt like... Now, I didn't think we'd go 13-3, but I felt that Case Keenum could win us a couple games and keep us afloat until Bradford got back. I just don't feel that with Sean Mannion now. Obviously, we know Kirk is very reliable under center, but I just worry that if Kirk goes down, what happens? Because I just think, man, it is going to be rough. So, I'm going to say quarterback, and it's not because I don't like the starting quarterback. It's what's behind the starting quarterback that scares me.
I would agree with that.
Let's go to defense. A whole brand new look for a defense that has been pretty well put together.
Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4,
the last few years.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. There's 14 guys on defense that would be undrafted rookies brought in this year or drafted rookies.
So for a defense that has been pretty well put together for the last 5-6 years, there's a lot of new faces. Obviously, with Michael Pierce coming in to replace Linval Joseph, Afadi Adedabo now replaces Everson Griffin today. We'll see what happens down the line. Eric Wilson, not new, but maybe takes a little bit of a bigger role. Mike Hughes, obviously all them guys, Jeff Gladney, all them guys are brand new. So let's start with, obviously, I think this our defense always starts up front, right? That's where the Vikings always are built strong. Daniil Hunter, Michael Pierce, Shamar Stephen, Ofadi Adedabo. Let's start at that 3-tech where Shamar Stephen is right now. You have Shamar Stephen, Jalen Holmes, Hercules Mataafa, James Lynch. I think you can throw Armin Watts in there, Jaleel Johnson. There's a nice rotation of defensive linemen. My name to watch, as I said earlier before we got on the show, is going to be Armin Watts. I think he was very productive in the time that he played a little bit last fall. I think James Lynch will be in that rotation day one. Defensive end, I think Kenny Willekes from Michigan State, I think he's going to be in there with Afadi. What do you think, Mitchell, up front in the front four?
My guy's James Lynch. I think he's possibly a starter, but honestly, this is another spot on our roster where we're gonna have a competition.
Yeah,
it's gonna be, in my opinion, the competition is gonna be between Shamar, Jaleel, and James.
Yep,
that's just me, but still, that's a 3-man competition heading into camp.
Yeah,
Daniil and Pierce are pretty much gimmies. And
Daniil's a gimme.
honestly, Lynch could play D end. So
yeah, that's the nice
with
thing about
Afadi
James Lynch
and Kenny Willekes, I wouldn't rule him out. I know he had double-digit sacks this last season at Michigan State.
Oh, we missed DJ Wanneman.
Yeah.
I think, and don't freak out at me when I say this, he is what they saw in Daniil Hunter when they took him out of LSU.
He was D-line coach. What's his name?
Russ Patterson.
Yeah, he was. DJ Wanham was his guy. That's who he told Zimmer. That's the guy I want, and we got him.
Here's the thing: I would never bet against the Vikings developing a defensive end, especially a raw pass rusher. They have done it year after year after year.
For sure.
They did it with Everson Griffin. They did it with Brian Robinson. They did it with Daniil Hunter. They did it with Ray Edwards. The track record's there. One of these guys, whether it's Willekes or Wanneman or both, one of them is going to be a productive player for the Vikings, in my opinion.
All right, give me your starting front four. Let's fire it off.
My starting front four: Daniil, Michael Pierce. I think Shamar is going to get the job to start just because he's the veteran and he's got some money. He's been here a while. And Afadi. Unless they bring back somebody else. But, and I think you all know who we're talking about. If Everson comes back, obviously that's Everson. Don't close the door on that. I know he said his goodbye, but I'm not writing that off by any means.
Right. Yeah, if he hasn't signed at this point, part of the reason I feel like some of these guys haven't signed now is just because of all of what's going on in the world. And
part of it is I think they're waiting for Jadeveon.
Right.
Right? What's he going to decide to do?
He's kind of going to... Is there any other real big defensive lineman that signed, really? No. Other than Robert Quinn?
No.
So, I don't know, but... I was going to say he kind of sets the market, but his market's already been...
Yeah,
it keeps deteriorating the longer he waits. So, really...
What do you got up front?
I got Daniil Pierce. I do have Shamar starting at D-tackle, but...
I think that's to start.
Man. I wouldn't be surprised if James Lynch or Kenny Willekes starts at the other end as we sit now with the roster. But the way we're headed, it's going to be a short off season, so I'm probably just going to... I would probably keep Afadi right now.
And Afadi had a good year.
Right, but
I think
if you're going to give all these
player.
Right. If you're going to give all these rookies a shorter offseason to figure it out and get the reps and figure out what Coach Zim and Patterson and, other Coach Zim wants. And there's obviously the learning curve, and if you can't, if training camp gets pushed back or shortened, or there's a lot of things that are kind of up in the air right now. And if the offseason ultimately is shortened, you're probably not going to see a lot of rookies start that aren't named Justin Jefferson and Jeff Gladney.
Right. I would agree with that. Linebacker, pretty simple, right?
Honestly, I myself have one probably shock here. It's not obviously Barr.
Weak side linebacker?
Yeah.
Who do you got?
Troy
Dye?
Just because he offers so much versatility. He covered slot wideouts at Oregon.
Yeah, I like Troy Dye. I think he might have been the steal of the draft for us. But I think we had a lot of nice value players.
But if you look at Troy, look at our other two stud linebackers, Kendricks and Barr. Mm-hmm. They're both speed guys. They're quick. Eric Kendricks was the top-rated coverage linebacker last year. And look at Troy Dye. Weird.
Yep.
What was he? I think he's for sure in the top 3 linebackers that ran 40s at the draft.
And he's a good coverage guy. He's super smart. I had this in my breakdown.
He's a little bit small, but
I had this in my breakdown of him. The biggest thing with Troy Dye is, does he believe in himself enough to be the player that he can be? Because he is a very smart football player, always in the right position. So I think you're onto something there. I don't know if it's week 1.
But I think that's just kind of more of a bold prediction going outside the lines.
Yeah.
Do I think he takes, like I just said, if we do get a shortened offseason, I doubt he's going to take the job from Eric Wilson.
Right.
And
we don't really use that linebacker that much anyway. It's a linebacker. Secondary, obviously, this is brand new.
Pretty much everybody.
Mike Hughes, Jeff Gladney, Cam Dantzler, Josh Mertellis, Chris Boyd, Harrison Hand, Holton Hill, and then Harrison Smith and Anthony Harris. Now, I'm going to say this. This secondary is extremely young as far as cornerback position. Mike Hughes is now your most experienced corner.
Him and Holton. But obviously Holton was suspended.
He doesn't have a lot of experience.
Missed the year.
I'm a big fan of Holton Hill. I think he could have a huge kind of breakout season. But here's what I will say that will help the Vikings in this regard, and I wrote this in my article this week. The thing that benefits the Vikings secondary is those 2 guys that are in the back, because they are as good as it gets in the National Football League. And it's going to help. It's going to take pressure off those young corners, especially with edge rushers like Danielle and Afadi, and if Everson comes back, and Michael Pierce and all these guys that can help them. We're gonna really need a pressure set. We're gonna need to get pressure this year to take some weight off the corners.
Yeah. But honestly, I think that might bring back some of the old Zimmer defense that we saw before the Philadelphia Eagles game.
Yeah.
A little bit more blitzes, a little bit more creativity, not being scared. That's just me, but let's go to Anthony Harris. What do you think? Does he hold out like the other guys? Some of the other guys have done. Do we play him?
I'm Anthony Harris.
Are we gonna get traded?
If I'm Anthony Harris, you're
holding out. Yeah.
I'm not signing that piece of paper.
Right.
There's no way in hell that if I'm him, I'm signing that franchise tag. Not because
of the Vikings,
the money is or the Vikings or anything.
It's just a smart thing to do.
28 years old, I believe.
This is when he wants to ink his big dollars.
He has one shot to get paid.
This is it.
There's no way if I'm him.
You're wasting another year.
You're wasting another year to try and get paid again.
I believe he's led the NFL in picks the last 2 years. Was it?
Last year for sure. But he's always been productive when he's played with us. I personally think the Vikings find a way to get something done. I think we're a little late in the game for a trade.
Right.
Especially with a young secondary, I think it's smart now to keep those 2 together, because if you add another new piece, then it's just Harrison back there, and who knows. I do think the Vikings find a way to get something done. But if I'm him, I'm not signing that franchise tag because he knows he can get that somewhere else. Like I said, he has one shot at this to get paid, and he deserves to be paid.
Oh, absolutely.
He 100% deserves to be paid, and he has every right to go get his money for the one time he's going to get it.
Yep.
What about corner? Jeff Gladney?
I mean, this is honestly our secondary is just another. Like I said before, it's another spot where it's. Come on, guys! You're gonna have to show who's the best in practice.
Yeah, the problem with this is, it's inexperience depth.
Oh, for sure, but that's where having this depth is going to be absolutely wonderful because whoever catches on and whoever understands and figures out Zimmer's defense the fastest is
gonna play.
That's your slot. You're going in there whether you like it or not.
Obviously, I think Mike Hughes is gonna play as long as he can stay healthy. He'll be in the mix.
That's been his biggest concern his whole career so far. So
Jeff Gladney, we know Mike Zimmer doesn't like to play young corners. Mike, you don't have a choice. In 2020, you have no choice but to play young corners. Cam Dancer will get some run. Chris Boyd will get some run. Obviously, Gladney, Holton Hill, Harrison Hand will probably get some run. They're completely different approach by the Vikings front office. And to all you fans out there, they listen to you. Everybody was complaining about our corners and how bad they were. Here you go. It's all brand new. I do think at the end of the day, to start, we're going to understand that maybe Xavier Rhodes wasn't that bad. Now, not saying that these guys won't turn into something, but I think at the beginning of the year, we're really going to miss that experience. And I think the youth is going to hurt us early in the year. We're going to have some growing pains with these young guys.
With that being said, I wouldn't be surprised if we bring in somebody yet here.
Yes.
Name like Drake Kirkpatrick or Logan Ryan would be the ones that I would watch or prefer.
Yeah. I think Drake Kirkpatrick is the easy one because he knows Zimmer's defense. I think that is a easy piece to bring in, and just like you said, it's really hard to see Zimmer going into the season without some sort of
veteran core for. I mean, look at what he did that year with Terrence. I mean, he brought in 38-year-old Terrence Newman.
Yeah, and he played till he was damn near 50. It felt like.
Who are you starting? Who's your starting secondary as we sit?
As we sit today.
Granted, I think that we are bringing somebody in, but we'll give you what we have.
Here's
now.
What I have. I have Jeff Gladney, Holton Hill, and Mike Hughes.
Okay.
Those are my three guys. Well, obviously with Harrison and Anthony Harris. What do you got?
I got Gladney, Mike Hughes, and my boy Cam Dantzler.
Cam Dantzler.
Just because
I know everybody's really excited about him. He's going to get some playing time.
I mean, some of y'all ain't going to like this
Zimmer
because
guy.
you're salty about Xavier, but the boy's Xavier's replacement.
Xavier clone.
He's physical. He was physical in college. He got his penalties. There's one difference that he has from Xavier, and it's probably Xavier's biggest fault. Cam Dantzler turns his head to the ball. Xavier didn't care that the football was in the air.
And here's one thing. Remember, and I tried to tell people this about Xavier Rhodes all the time. He's probably going to get penalties called on him. And you're just
Cam Dantzler is definitely going to get penalties called on him to start his career.
You're going to have to live with it because it's just how it's going to be. Pretty simple.
He's just physical, and that's not the way. That's not you. It's so hard to guard receivers in the NFL physically now.
Yep.
It just is. There's nothing you can do about it. I think the pass interference rule, I mean, obviously there wasn't very many overturned, but the fact that you can't review them now, again, is going to help that a little bit, where it's more, I mean, it's just strictly ref's judgment, either throws the flag or he doesn't.
Yeah.
But those are my guys. Cam is just, he's our biggest corner. He's 6'2". I mean, somebody's going to have to guard.
Chris Boyd is going to be in there, too.
I mean, like, okay, we play Tampa Bay. Jeff Gladney, Mike Hughes against Mike Evans. Guess what?
Yeah,
I don't care how good they are. That's a mismatch.
I don't like that. That's like Antoine Winfield on Elshon Jeffrey. I don't know if anybody remembers those days.
Didn't go well.
Antoine Winfield, a really good player. Really, really good player. But him on Elshon Jeffrey doesn't work. No matter how good you are. It just it doesn't matter. Yeah. You need size.
Special teams for us is pretty self-explanatory. Colquitt's back. Bailey's back.
Cutting.
Long snapper. And then we got Amir back. So that's punt and kick return unless KJ or Courtney Davis.
Yep.
But
I mean, I think KJ will be right in there because that's just what he did in college. And pretty easy. What we didn't do was strongest position on defense for you.
Yep. My strongest is linebacker. I mean, that's pretty easy. I'm sure that's yours too. I mean, I don't think you can. Honestly, I don't think you can pick a different position and say it's stronger.
No, yeah, the linebacker is definitely.
Because really, we only play 2 linebackers, and guess what? We got 2 All-Pros.
Yeah, so that's pretty easy. Weakest, I would say, if I'm picking a position, I would say 3-tech. Just because I would like a pass rusher there, and we don't really have one today unless one of these guys turns into one, like Hercules or James Lynch or whatever. But if I'm picking a group, it's obviously the corners.
I'm taking free safety just because we either got to re-sign Anthony or we got to re-sign him and trade him, or he's probably going to hold out, in my opinion.
Yeah, we got to get him back. Pretty
so simple. Mine would be free safety because then you're looking at Brian Cole or Josh Medelis starting.
All right. Should we wrap this up?
We're gonna do our sooner or later segment, hence the name of the podcast.
In about 5 minutes, and with the sooner or later, we got 3 questions here. Mitchell and I will answer sooner or later on what we think. Let's start with this. Maybe the biggest question of the offseason. Dalvin Cook extension. Sooner or later for Dalvin Cook?
This is going to shock a lot of people. I'm going to say later for one reason. You tell me when his healthy season's been.
Yep.
Tell me.
Yeah.
We don't have Dalvin Cook in the playoffs. Guess what? If our offense revolves around Dalvin and we're without Dalvin, guess what? A lot of things change. And so I'm going to say later because I think we really want to see a season out of him where he can stay healthy, he can be healthy, and he can always be that guy that we turn around. I mean, he's there, hand the ball. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't think Alexander Madison's bad. I actually think he's really good and really wouldn't mind if something did happen to Dalvin. I think we would be okay. But I think that's also plays a factor in my later answer.
Yeah. I'm going to say sooner. Now, I'm going to put a disclaimer on this and say I don't think the Vikings should even extend Dalvin Cook because I'm not going to pay a running back the type of money that he's going to want. I would maybe pay him $10 million if he's healthy for a year and he plays. He's going to be looking to get – he won't get the McCaffrey number, but he's going to be looking to get close to that.
$1 million or $2 less, yeah.
Yeah. Listen, I love Dalvin Cook, you guys. I think he's one of the most dynamic running backs in the league and maybe in a long time in this league. The reason I say sooner, though, is we value Dalvin Cook and we value
more
what
than
he
anybody
does.
else will.
And yeah, like you said, more than anybody else will. I think a Dalvin Cook extension is coming. I don't necessarily agree with it, But I will gladly take Delvin in my backfield when
Right.
healthy for the next 5-6 years. I just don't know if it'll be healthy. So hopefully I'm wrong and he can be healthy for a full year. All right, the next one. The Vikings have 4 starting rookies.
I'm going to say Sooner just because really shit. So we got Gladney, Harris. Yeah, I'm going to say Sooner, obviously because I have Ezra starting on offensive line day 1. And I believe that Dantzler could win a job to start. I think Lynch could win a job to start. Yeah, I'm going to say Sooner. It's close, but
I'm going to say Sooner as well. Gladney, Jefferson. I think Lynch, he might not start, but he's going to get a lot of playing time. Then
Right.
he's going to feel like a starter. And Cam Dantzler. I think you're right with him. So I'll say Sooner on that. Our last one, Pat Elflein's on the bench. Sooner or later?
I think it's obviously with my offensive line prediction, I think it's Sooner. I think he's the weakest part of our offensive line. Obviously, things would have to change. Things would have to move.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, Reef would move, or somebody would. We're not just gonna say screw you, Pat Elflein, and I mean, the only way I think Pat Elflein is not a starter is if Reef moves, and I hope that happens. I think it'd be best for us.
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna happen, but if it was me, I would personally put Reef at left guard and start Cleveland day 1.
Yeah, I'm going to say later. Just because I don't know if they think Cleveland will be ready right away with his size, if they want him to get...
And I mean, I can get behind that.
Yeah, if they want him to get bigger, like they wanted to do with
O'Neal until
injuries happened. I'm going to say later, but that is maybe the loses later, I could possibly say, because we all know in this league you're one injury away from everything changing. So I'm going to say later, and that's about it. I think that's all we got.
Yeah, that's it.
Hope you're all staying safe, healthy.
Wearing your mask and gloves.
Gloves, whatever you got to do. Hopefully we can get out and do something here soon. Follow us on Facebook on the Sooner or Later podcast. Follow us on Twitter. What is it? At Podcast Sooner, I believe. If you have any fan questions, please email us or DM us. The email's all over our Facebook page. Continue to like our YouTube channel, all that stuff. Just support us. We hope you enjoy the content. Mitchell, I'll let you sign off.
Yeah, that's all we have for this week. We will discuss our topic for next week, and we don't know what'll happen with news. Maybe we'll get news baseball starting and do a quick little Twins thing or something. I mean, we're kind of at a play it by day at this point in time in our lives just because of all that's going on, but yeah, I mean, give us...
If you have a subject for us,
yeah, throw something at us, and we'll talk about it and see what we can do with it. But that's all we got. Thanks for listening, if you listened, obviously, and Skol. Whoa!